children, welcome to another class of business studies. You have studied the first two chapters already, isn't it? The first chapter, business, trade and commerce, and the second chapter, forms of business organization. Today we are going to study the third chapter, that is private, public and global enterprises. You might have seen different organizations in your area, that is different business organizations. That is, there are a single owner business, that is a sole proprietorship. Two or more persons combine together and they do a business called a partnership. A joint Hindu family business, that is, there will be a karta and co-partners. Then a company registered under the Companies Act, that is joint stock company and a cooperative society. You have learned all these things in the second chapter. Also, you have seen other business organizations which is run by the government, that is the railway department, postal department, LIC and so on. And you might have seen different business organizations having branches in more than one country, isn't it? And these organizations are known as global enterprises. So we know that there are different types of business organizations. In this chapter, we are going to study the three different types of organizations, that is private sector enterprises, public sector enterprises and global enterprises. Okay, actually we are studying in detail the public sector enterprises in this chapter. Okay. Now, this is a diagram of the different sectors. We know that Indian economy is a mixed economy. It is a combination of both public sector enterprise and private sector enterprise. In this chapter, we are going to study the three divisions of public sector, their features, merits and demerits. You have already studied this section, that is the private sector enterprises, in the second chapter, that is forms of business organization. You have studied all these things. Okay, so let us move on to the topic. What is private sector enterprises? Private sector enterprises are those firms which are owned, controlled and managed by private businessmen. That is, if an individual or a group of individuals combine and they do a business, it is known as private sector enterprise. Their main motive will be profit making. Here it is given an example, Tata and all. Okay. Now, you have studied all these things. Which are the examples or which are the types of private sector enterprise? Sole proprietorship, Hindu undivided family, partnership business organization, cooperative societies and joint stock companies. These are the different types of private sector enterprises. So, we have already studied it. Now, in this chapter, we are going to study in detail what are public sector enterprises, which are the different types of public sector enterprises, what are their features, merits and demerits. Okay. So, what is public sector enterprise? Enterprises owned and managed by central government or state government or by both. That is, you should know that public sector enterprise means it is just like a government enterprise. That is, here the main ownership, management and control will be in the hands of the government. That is, it will be in the hands of central government or state government or both will be there. Okay, so those enterprises which are owned, controlled and managed by the central government or state government or by both is known as public sector enterprise. Okay. Now, what will be the main aim of public sector enterprise? We know that it will be service. No, a government enterprise will be, main motive will be service motive. Example, the railways, income tax department, LIC and postal services and so on are examples of public sector enterprises. Okay. Now, which are the different types or which are the different forms of public sector enterprises? There are mainly three forms or three types of public sector enterprises. First is departmental undertakings, public corporations or statutory corporations and government companies. We are going to study in detail what each of this is. Here we have set the example, that is Post and Telegraph, Reserve Bank of India, Indian telephone industries are the examples of public sector enterprises. Okay. Now the first division, that is departmental undertaking. What is departmental undertaking? Departmental undertaking is a form of public sector enterprise which is established as a department of the ministry. That is, these organizations will be under the control of a ministry, under a department or a ministry. These undertakings are created by the government. Government is created. The ownership, control and management will be under the hands of government. It will be controlled by government officials and it will be under the control of a minister. There will be a minister who takes decisions, who controls the activities and who manages all the activities of this enterprise. Okay, so these are departmental undertaking. Now we can look the example. That is All India Radio. All India Radio is an example. Then Doordarshan, Post and Telegraph, Indian Railways. We already said this example. These are the examples of departmental undertaking. Now let us look the features of departmental undertaking. The first feature is funding. That is, from where does the fund come from to operate the business organization? In departmental undertaking, we know that it is a government company or it is a government type of organization. So the main fund comes from the government treasury. Okay, the government treasury allocates the fund as a budget for its yearly operations, and the fund comes from the government treasury, and this type of business conduct their business, and the revenue which is got from this business organization is directly paid to the treasury itself. So fund comes from the treasury and the revenue will automatically go to the treasury. Okay, so this is the feature, first feature, that is funding. Now the second feature is audit and control. What is audit? You might have heard of this word, audit. Audit means inspecting the books of accounts. We have studied the vouchers and all now in accounting. So with that voucher, the auditor will check the entries of the business transactions whether it is correct or not. So audit and control is, they are subject to government audit. That is, it is compulsory for departmental undertaking to conduct audit and control procedures. So auditing is necessary, auditing is compulsory. The third feature is employees. Who are the employees of departmental undertaking? That is, the employees are government servants or government officials. Government appoints an official or a person to conduct the business activities, or each employees of a departmental undertaking will be the government servants or government officials. Now, the next feature is control. Subject to direct control by the concerned ministry. We already said that departmental undertaking is established under a department as a ministry. So there will be control of that ministry or control of that concerned department head. Okay, so there will be direct control of that ministry. Next, the next one is accountability. That is, accountable to the ministry and the government. Departmental undertaking is always accountable or is always responsible to the government or that particular ministry. Okay, so these are the features of departmental undertaking. We said that the first feature is funding, that is, the main amount or main money required to conduct the business comes from the government, and the revenue earned from this business or the profit earned from the business is directly sent to the treasury. And second one is, it is necessary to conduct the audit and control procedure because it is compulsory. And government servants are the employees of the departmental undertaking, and there will be direct control of the ministry and the government. And the last one is, it is accountable or it is responsible to the government and the ministry. So these are the features. Next, which are the merits of departmental undertaking? The first merit is control of Parliament. Better control over funds and operations as it is controlled by the ministry. We said that this undertaking or this enterprise is always under the control of a ministry. So this minister or this ministry will be liable or will be responsible for all those activities. So always there will be a direct control of the Parliament. Okay. Next feature is public accountability. We said that accountability means responsibility. So there will be always a public responsibility as it is a government company. It is responsible to the government. These type of enterprises will always be responsible for the government for their activities or for the decisions they are taken. Okay. Next is source of revenue to government. We said that the funds come from the government and go to the government. So it is a source of revenue to the government. Income earned by these organizations directly goes to the treasury. Okay, we already said that. And the last one is national security. National security means secrecy can be maintained, especially in case of strategic industries such as defense, etc. We know that these strategic industries are those industries which would not disclose any information about that. That is a secret industries, that is military, defense, air force and so on. So these type of industries can really depend upon departmental undertakings for their activities. So it ensures national security. Okay. So these are the merits of departmental undertaking. The first merit is there will be always the control of the parliament, and the next one is it is always responsible to the government for its activities, and the third one is the government gets revenue from these type of enterprises. So it is a source of revenue to the government, and the last one is national security. The strategic type of industries like defense, military, air force and so on can really depend upon these type of industries because secrecy is always maintained. Next is limitations of departmental undertaking. Whatever merits is there will be limitations. We can look what are the limitations of departmental undertaking. The first is lack of flexibility. Flexibility means it can be changed. Here lack of flexibility means no change is occurred. That is, whatever decisions are taken, these enterprises have to approach the ministry, have to get approval, and after that only they can implement the decisions. So there is lack of flexibility. Predetermined rules and regulations and interference from the ministry. Always there will be a control from the ministry. They cannot take decisions on their own. Okay. Next is delay in decisions. We know that they want to get approval from the minister, only after that they can implement the action. So always there will be delay in decision. Decision making is not easily possible. Always there will be delay. Approval from the government is necessary to take decisions. Now the third limitation is unable to tap business opportunities. Tap means utilize. So here the government official or the employees cannot easily make use of any business opportunities that comes before them because they have to approach the minister and do all those activities. The conservative approach of bureaucrats does not allow them to take risky ventures. That is, bureaucrats means some government officials who are not ready to take any risk and all, because they don't want to take any risky adventure. So if a good business opportunity happens also, they are not able to tap that business opportunities. They cannot make use of or make utilize of that business opportunities. And the next one is red tapeism and bureaucracy. What is red tapeism? That is, when we go to a government office and when we give an application for any activities, they will just go through that and they will put it in a file and with a red covering. And with a red covering they will close it and keep it aside, isn't it? That procedure is known as red tapeism. So red tapeism and bureaucracy is always seen in this departmental undertaking. That is, it will result in the delay in decision making and operations. That is, whenever we approach it, they will make a delay and the decisions are not taken in the correct time. That procedure is known as red tapeism. So departmental undertakings' main limitation is red tapeism and bureaucracy. That is, this is the procedure. That is, they will keep it in a file and they will keep aside. That is, and they will say that okay, we will consider it, but there will be always delay in decision making. That is red tapeism. So the next one is political interference. We know that it is under the control of a ministry, so always there will be political interference in the activities. These enterprises are subject to political interference through the ministry. Okay, next limitation is consumer needs. In departmental undertakings, consumer needs are ignored. Okay, consumer needs are not considered well, only for the service of the society. They say that they work for the service of the society, but consumer needs are not ignored. So these are the limitations of departmental undertaking. The first limitation is lack of flexibility. That is, as there is a provisions of predetermined rules and regulations, there is lack of flexibility. The government officials cannot take decisions on their own. Second one is there is always delay in decision making as they have to get approval from the ministry. And the third one is If any business opportunities come, they won't be able to tap or utilize those business opportunities. And next one is red tapeism and bureaucracy is always seen in departmental undertaking. There will be always political interference from the ministry in the activities of the enterprises, and consumer needs are ignored or not at all considered in these type of enterprises. Okay, so these are the different limitations, merits and features of departmental undertaking. Now we are going to study the second type, that is statutory corporations or public corporations. What is a statutory corporation? A public corporation or a statutory corporation is a public sector enterprise established by a special act of parliament or a state legislature. That is, by passing a special act, these type of enterprises come into action, and this special act is passed in the parliament or state legislature. Okay, that is, we know RBI Act 1934. It is an example of the public corporation. By passing a special act, new business enterprises came into existence. These type of business organizations are known as statutory corporations or public corporations. As a body corporate, it is a separate entity for legal purposes and can sue and be sued, enter into contract and acquire property in its own name. That is, as it is a body corporate or as it is a separate organization, it is a separate entity for legal purposes. That is, these organizations have a legal existence. That is, they can sue and be sued. What is sue and be sued? And be sued means this organization can file a case against any other person, and the other parties, that is the third parties, can file a case against this organization and enter into contract, acquire property in its own name. That is, it has a separate legal entity. It can do anything on its own name. In the company's name, in the business organization's name, it can do it. It can enter into a contract or agreement. It can file a case. It can buy a property or something in its own name. It can enter into a contract, any legal contract, any agreements and so on. Okay. Now, these are the examples of public corporations. That is the RBI, Reserve Bank of India, Indian Airlines Corporation, LIC, KSRTC and so on are examples of statutory corporation. That is, by passing a special act in the parliament or state legislature, these organizations are come into practice or come into existence. RBI, we have here, that is the RBI Act 1934. By passing this special act, RBI came into existence. Okay, so these are the public corporation. Next, which are the features? The first feature is formed by a special act. We have already said that it is formed by a special act. That is the LIC. LIC came into existence by the LIC Act 1956. It is created under a special act of parliament or state assembly. So this is the first feature. Second feature is ownership. Who will be the owner? Ownership will be under the hands of the government. So here the government is the owner. And the third one, separate legal existence. We said that these type of organizations have a separate legal existence. That is, they can enter into contract, they can own or buy property, they can do whatever in its own name. So it has a separate legal entity, that is separate legal existence. And next is financial autonomy. Autonomy means freedom. Obtain funds through borrowing from treasury or public and from the sales of goods and services. That is, these type of organizations, public corporations or statutory corporations, they get the fund from borrowing from treasury. They borrow from the treasury. That is, the treasury do not give them directly. They borrow from it or public. Or from the public, they invite the subscriptions. That is, they invite the shares and all from the public. And from the sale of goods and services, they will say, or they will do any services and all. Suppose LIC is doing a service. Fourth point is financial autonomy. What is autonomy? That is freedom. These organizations, these public corporations or statutory corporations, they obtain the funds. How does they obtain the fund? In departmental undertaking, we said that this type of organizations get the fund from the government treasury. But here in public corporation, these corporations raise their funds by borrowing from the public. Either they will invite shareholders from the public or from the government, or they will do any sale of goods or services. That is, they will do any services and from that they will get the money. Suppose LIC is giving a service of insurance, no, and KSRTC, Kerala State Road Transport Corporation, it is a service. So these type of organizations get fund from the sale of goods and services. It has the power to utilize its revenue. We said that in departmental undertaking, the fund or the revenue raised from these undertakings are paid to the treasury. But here they have the power to utilize that revenue. They can make use of that revenue. They can do whatever they like according to the company rules. Okay, here they have the power to utilize those profit or revenue. Next feature is employees. In departmental undertaking, we said that government servants are the employees. But here it is appointed as per the terms and conditions of the corporation, and they are not to be treated as government servants. Here the employees are recruited or selected as per the conditions of the corporation. That is what is mentioned in that special statute or special act. The employees are selected according to that statute or act. So here it is appointed as per the terms and conditions of that special act, and they are not treated as a government officials. So here the employees are not government officials. In departmental undertaking it is government official, but here it is not government official. The employees are treated according to the terms and conditions of the act. Okay. Next is independent accounting and audit. In departmental undertaking, we said that audit and control is compulsory. But here, it is not compulsory to conduct the audit and control procedures. It has its own accounting and audit, but not subject to government audit and budget allocation. Here, it is not compulsory to prepare audit or to conduct audit procedures, but they should do their accounting procedures according to the terms and conditions of the act, because these companies are incorporated according to that act, and the activities will always be according to the terms and conditions of that act. So these are the features of departmental undertaking. The first feature is it is formed by a special act. Example, the LIC is formed by a special act called LIC Act 1956. And the next feature is ownership. Here government is the owner. And the third one is these type of enterprises will have a separate legal existence. That is, they can enter into contract, they can buy properties on its own, they can sue and be sued, and so on. And the next one is financial autonomy. That is, there is a complete freedom to operate the financial activities. That is, they don't have to give their revenue to the government. They can utilize this as their own. And next is employees. Here the employees are appointed as per the terms and conditions of the act and not according to the government. Here government officials are not the employees, they are separate one. Now the last one is independent accounting and audit. That is, they are not subject to the government's accounting and audit procedures, but they should do the accounting procedures according to the terms and conditions of the act. So these are the features of public enterprises or public corporations. Next we are going to study the merits of public corporation. Which are the merits? First, high degree of flexibility. We know that in departmental undertaking there is lack of flexibility, that is, there is no need, that is, they don't have the freedom to operate on their own, they have to contact the ministry and so on. Here there is high degree of flexibility, that is, they can change decisions on their own. It enjoys flexibility of operations and financial and managerial freedom, since it is free from the undesirable government control. Here there is no interference from the government, or there is no direct interference from the government. So they can take decisions on their own. So there is high degree of flexibility. And the next one is least government interference. Here we are not saying that no government interference, there will be government interference, but it will be less when compared to the departmental undertaking. So there will be least government interference. As there is no budget allocation for funds from government, there is no much government control. Okay. And the next one is autonomous status. That is, they can frame their own policies and procedure within the purview of the act. We said that statutory corporations are those public sector enterprises which are established by a special act of parliament or state legislature. So these enterprises should function according to that special act. So the autonomous status or the freedom they would enjoy will be within that limit of the act. Whatever the act says, they will have to follow that act. They would have to act according to the terms and conditions prescribed in that act only. So they have a freedom, that is they have an autonomous status. They can frame their own policies, that is they can frame their own policies. They can do whatever decisions they want to take, and they can plan or procedure or whatever they do within the limit. Purview means within the limit of the act. Okay. Now the next one is helps in economic development. It helps in the economic, it contributes towards the economic development in a big way. That is, we know that government companies or statutory companies are for the benefit of the society. They provide service to the society. So whatever the fund or the whatever revenue comes from it, it will be for the society's interest, or it will be for the welfare of the society. So it helps in the economic development of a nation. And the last one is stability. That is, stability means fixed, stable. Since they are not subject to political changes, they can take long-term business policies. That is, there will be not much government interference or something. So there will be no political interference. So these can take long-term business policies, or they can enter into contract for a long-term basis. So when compared to the other types of business organizations, statutory corporations have a stable, that is, they have a long life. Okay. So these are the merits of public sector enterprises. The first merit is high degree of flexibility is there, because they don't have to contact the ministry or something. They can take decisions on their own. And the second one is least government interference. There will be less control by the government in the internal activities of the enterprise. And next one is autonomous status. That is, they can frame their own policies and procedure, and according to that act they can do whatever they like. And next is helps in the economic development. Actually it is a source of revenue. So it helps in the economic development of a nation. And last one is stability. That is, it is always fixed, because when compared to other type of enterprises, these types of enterprises have a stable life. That is, they can enter into a long-term business policies, as there is not much political changes. Okay. Now, what are the limitations of public corporations? The first limitation is rules and regulations. We said that these organizations are framed or established under a special act, and it is formed by this special act. So these organizations should always follow these rules and regulations which is mentioned in the act. It does not enjoy much operational flexibility, as it is governed by various rules and regulations of this act. That is, these enterprises can take decisions, can act only according to that special act. They cannot do anything beyond that act. Okay. Now, next is political interference. We said that there is least government interference. That means there is no government interference is not there. There will be least government interference. Sometimes there may happen that political interference will be there. That is, in practice, complete autonomy is not possible due to interference from the ministry. That is, in practice, we said that there is autonomy, there is freedom in operation, but in practice there is not much freedom in operation, because there will be interference, or there will be intervention from the ministry. Now, chances of corruption are there. Corruption means misuse of the government officials in their duties. So officials may misuse the autonomy status for their personal gain. For getting personal gain, they may misuse their official status. So there will be chances of corruption. And next is inefficiency. That is, we know that a private sector enterprise will have many competitors. That is, there will be many business organizations who do similar kind of activities or similar kind of business. But in a public sector, that is in a public corporations, there will be no competitors, or there will be less competitors. So absence of competition and profit motive leads to the inefficiency of operation. So here delay in operations can happen. We said that red tapeism and all. So delay in operations can happen. So public corporations can be sometimes inefficient. Now delay in action, we already said, that is in the director board there will be a government member. We said that the shares are invited from the public or from the government or by the sale of goods and services. So there will be government in the shareholders. So here it is said that quick decisions cannot be taken by the officials because of the involvement of government nominees in the director board. In the director board, there will be government officials, there will be public or other persons. So, because of their involvement in the decision making process, it can get delayed. Okay, delay in action means involvement of these government officials can lead to delay in actions. So these are the limitations of public corporation. The first limitation is rules and regulations. That is, these type of enterprises can act only according to the rules of the act. And next is political interference. Freedom is not practicable. There will be interference from the political party. Next is chances of corruption. That is, the government officials can misuse their official status for personal gain. And next is inefficiency, that is because of the absence of the competitors and so on, and profit motive leads to inefficient operations. Delay in action can happen because of the involvement of the government officials, delay in action also can happen. Okay, so these are the limitations of public corporation. Next we are going to study the third category, that is government company. What is the government company? Next we are going to study the third category, that is government company. What is a government company? A government company is a public sector enterprise which is established, registered and governed by the Companies Act 2013. Those companies which are established under the Companies Act 2013, those companies are known as government company. Okay. Public enterprises organized under the Companies Act are called government companies. It is a company in which at least 51% of the share capital is held by the central government or by the state government or both. That is, a government company is a public sector enterprise in which 51% of the share capital, that is the major portion of the share capital, will be in the hands of a government, that is in the hands of central government or state government or by both. Okay, so these type of enterprises are called government organizations, and the rest 49% will be in the hands of private enterprises or so on, but the major portion or full portion will be under the hands of the government companies. That type of enterprises are known as government company. Now, which are the government companies in India? Hindustan Shipyard Limited, Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited, Coal India Limited, Steel Authority of India Limited. These are the examples of government companies in India. Now, what are the features of government company? The first feature is incorporation. What is incorporation? Registration. We said that all those public sector enterprises which are established, registered and governed by the Companies Act 2013, that type of business organizations are known as government company. That is, the major shares will be in the hands of the central government or state government. That type of enterprises are known as government company. So here incorporation or the registration, it is incorporated under the Companies Act. According to the Companies Act, if a company is registered, it is known as government company. Next one is separate legal entity. We had discussed what is separate legal entity. These type of organizations will have a separate legal existence. That is, they can enter into contract in that company's name. They can sue and be sued. That is, they can file a case against someone and they can buy properties or something on their own. They can enter into contract or they can enter into agreement and so on. So they have a separate legal entity or separate legal existence. Now the third one is management. Here the management will be in the hands of the directors appointed by the government, because as the control is under the hands of the government, the management will be, we can say that it will be also under the hands of the government. That is, those servants or those officials which are appointed by the government will be managed. They will manage these type of organizations. And the next one is memorandum and articles of association. Now, note that these two are the main documents or important documents of a company. We will study in detail in accountancy what is memorandum and what is articles of association. Now understand that these two are the main documents of a company. Memorandum contains the details of the company, that is the name of the partners, the address, location, the contribution by each partners and so on. And articles of association means the bylaws of the company or the rules and regulations that a company have to follow. That is articles of association. We will study in detail. Now the objects of the company and its rules and regulations are contained in these documents. So the government company will have to prepare these two documents, that is memorandum and articles of association. And the next one is accounting and audit procedure. In departmental undertaking, we said that auditing is compulsory. In statutory corporation, we said that it is not compulsory. Now, in government company, they are exempted from accounting and audit rules as per the Act. Here, it is not compulsory, that is they are exempted means they are excluded from preparing these accounting and auditing procedures. But there is a clause but there is a condition that, however, government appointed auditors' report should be presented in the Parliament or Legislative Assembly. That is, a report by an auditor which is appointed by the government should be there at the Legislative Assembly, should be presented at the Legislative Assembly. Next feature is fund. We know that in a departmental undertaking, the main fund or funding is occurred from the government treasury. In statutory corporation, they raise fund by inviting shares from the public or by the government or by the sale of some goods or services. In government company, the fund or investment in government companies is raised by the government shareholders and from private shareholders. That is, we said that 51% of the shares will be from the government. That is, will be from the central or state government or both. The rest 49, they will be private shareholders. There may be private shareholders. It is not compulsory. Anyway, the 51% or the major part will be in the hands of government company. So here the funding, it will be 49% private enterprises and the rest 59 will be by the government. So these are the features of government company. The first feature is incorporation. A government company is registered under the Companies Act 2013, and the next one is separate legal existence. This type of companies will have a separate legal entity and the management will be under the hands of the directors, which is appointed by the government, and a memorandum and articles of association should be prepared by this type of enterprises, and they are exempted from accounting procedures. They have to prepare a report which is appointed by a government auditor and they have to present it to the parliament or state legislature. And the next one is fund. Funds are raised by both from the private businessmen or private enterprises and government enterprise. Which are the merits of government company? The first merit is easy formation by registration. We know that any company, that is in which major portion of the share capital is there and it is registered under the Companies Act 2013, that type of companies is known as government company. So it is very easy to form by registration. No need of any special act or parliament, just like statutory corporation, no need of passing any special act. They can simply form by registration under that special Companies Act. Okay. Now, next is separate legal entity. We said in the feature, it has a separate legal existence. And next one is quick decisions. In departmental undertaking, the main limitation was delay in decisions, as they have to approach the minister and they have to get approval, and later that only they can implement the action. But in government company, there is quick decision is possible, because prompt decisions in time, it has autonomy power. They have the freedom to operate on its own. So there will be no delay in decision making. Quick decisions can be occurred. This prevents unhealthy business. We said that there will be lack of competitors in government company. So it can control unhealthy business practices by providing goods and services at a reasonable price. We know that the service given by the government will be always reasonable, no? So unhealthy business practices can be controlled to some extent because of these type of enterprises. So these are the merits of government company. The first merit is it is very easy to form. It can be simply formed by registration and it has a separate legal entity. Quick decisions can be made and it prevents unhealthy business practices. Okay, now the last topic of today's class, limitations of government company. What are the limitations of government company? The first limitation is autonomy is just for namesake. Now, you might have been wondering that in the merit we will say that there is autonomy and in the demerit we will say that there is no autonomy. So, why is it like that, you might be thinking? I will give an example, that is, you have freedom to talk in class, but you have freedom only when I permit or when the teacher permits you to talk, only you have freedom, isn't it? So here autonomy is there, but there will be no complete freedom or there will be no complete autonomy. That is, since the government is the only shareholder in some companies, provisions of Companies Act have no relevance. Although there is provisions in the Companies Act, there will be government interference. Okay. Next one is no accountability. There will be no responsibility. That is, here government is the major shareholder. Even though major investment is made by the government, it is not answerable to the parliament. Okay, so there is no accountability in government company. And the last one is main purpose is not served. Being the major shareholder, government controls the affairs of the company. It defeats the main purpose by registering like other companies. So these are the limitations of government company. So today we studied the different types of public sector enterprises, that is departmental undertaking, statutory corporation and government company, and their merits, demerits and features. Hope you understood today's class. If you have any doubt, you can contact me. Thank you. See you in the next class.